public understanding on climate change. And we're finally getting to the point where we don't have to argue about whether or not the climate science is real. We're all starting to recognize more and more throughout our society that this is one of the most pressing issues of our time. And I think the reason that it's important that city councils address the issue, even through symbolic resolutions, is because it's way past time for all of us to take a stand. Any of us that understands the climate science and can look over the past trends and see and trust the scientists to understand climate science, which is very, very complicated. You start to realize that this is caused by human activity, and that we have really sat on the issue for way too long. It's time to address it. It's way past time to address it, and we need to start resilience planning, much less mitigation. So I also have worked with various groups in trying to press for national climate change legislation, and Congress has just become ineffectual, and so cities are going to have to lead. Cities already lead in terms of developing policies that reduce carbon emissions in the United States and around the world. Those types of changes are happening at the local level. And I thought that you made an excellent point, Sarah, whenever you talked about the cost coming back to cities and citizens, because I think we're all starting to see that we can't rely on our national government to come through with the disaster relief that we need right now, much less what we're going to need in the future. So I just wanted to reiterate some points about this particular type of policy. Like Sarah said, it's a fee at the source of the greenhouse gas emissions. It does gradually increase over time, but the way that it's set up with the fee and dividend system, as others have pointed out, it would be a progressive tax, not a regressive tax on people that are of lower income, because otherwise the proportion of income that individuals with lower incomes pay for products that are high in carbon is higher. So it would be an unfavorable piece of legislation if it weren't for that dividend piece. But it is really a beautiful policy. Fortunately, economists and climate scientists and even our Congressional Budget Office agree that that the carbon fee and dividend system and policy is preferable even to the cap and trade policy that was debated in 2009-2010. So it's revenue neutral, and even conservatives like Rex Tillerman of Exxon have said it's a more direct, transparent, and effective approach than the cap and trade system. So for a variety of reasons, it usually does appeal to some on both sides of the aisle, not everyone, of course, especially in this day and age when we're so polarized. And it gives money back to the citizens. A tax of $20 per ton of carbon dioxide would increase gas prices by about 20 cents per gallon. And again, I just want to close by saying, it's time for all of us to take a stand. It's past time. And so I would be delighted if our city council would do just that. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Yes.
My name is Kelly Mulholland. Thank you, Alderman Marsh, for bringing this forward. This is a very important initiative. Although it isn't symbolic, and I'll admit that, but it is not trivial, and in fact, it is profoundly important. It is the greatest challenge of our society, a civilization right now to deal with this problem, and I think this sends exactly the right message that we need to hear right now. This country is strewn with environmental organizations such as Omni 350, all from coast to coast, people, grassroots organizations trying to get this accomplished. And we've desperately needed for our leaders to stick their neck out and do the right thing. The timing is good. President Obama just stuck his neck out a couple weeks ago with a very powerful speech and made it very clear that we no longer have time to consult with the Flat Earth Society on this issue. It's time to move on and do something about it. And this is a very stable and solid idea. There's a great deal of consensus on this idea. It's It's very obvious that the industrial sector is not going to stop emitting carbon unless it costs them something to do that. You know, there's got to be a price to be paid for it. It's a very reasonable idea. It's a gentle idea, as you said. I liked what I heard from Alderman Kenyon earlier this evening when he said that Fayetteville is forward-thinking about water issues. I think would probably agree that we're also forward-thinking about environmental issues. This is the environmental issue of our time, and I hope that you will show leadership in this moment. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor Jordan and members of the council, I'm David Orr, 1564 West Cedar, here in Fayetteville. I'm here to speak in support of the resolution. I want to first commend Alderwoman Marsh for her leadership, and in spite of some of the negative comments that have been made in the newspaper, I think that it's really important to me personally, as a citizen, that my elected officials not only reflect and represent my views and my beliefs about what constitutes good public policy, but I think that it's really important for all elected officials to see where all of you stand in the broader constellation of political life in our country. Yes, Fayetteville is a microcosm. It is its own little discrete territory in a very large country. But it's individuals' voices that get heard by you. And collectively, you as representing the grassroots, literally, of our political body, of our body politic in this country, it's you who will represent the citizens of Fayetteville to our member of Congress, and indirectly to the Congress as a whole. I want to make a comment that I want to take exception with some of my colleagues who have talked about how this is a symbolic action that you're being requested to vote on. That to me has a certain connotation of something that is just kind of put out there and doesn't have meaning. I think this has real meaning, real importance. I moved back to Fayetteville after being gone from here for over 20 years because I saw Fayetteville being a city in this country that's standing out for standing up. You're leading on so many different fronts on the policies that you take. Taking a position on climate change today in the very polarized political climate we have is so critical to counteracting the tendency of many elected officials have to want to shrink away from something that has become so politically charged and create so much fear and misunderstanding. I know that you all understand this much better than many people in our country, and I know a lot of people I know here are looking for you to help us cut through the misinformation, the